What's up, everybody? This is Michael Shawn from Unison Games Cafe. And we've got a really cool thing going on here. My friend Izaiah, he's been a friend to Unison Games Cafe from pretty much the beginning. And he reached out to me because he qualified for the most recent Players Cup. And he said, hey, I would love to share with your followers what's going on. So thank you so much for being here, Izaiah. And I'll let you introduce yourself for a little while. Tell us about how much you love Pokemon.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Izaiah Santiago. I've been playing the Pokemon TCG for the past 10-ish years. I can never really pinpoint when I started, but I would say about 10 years I've been playing this game. Um, my love for Pokemon started when I was a little kid. When me and my dad used to go to the store, buy packs. Um, and then when I really got into the game was couple years ago, um, around Burning Shadows
Blue.
is kind of where I started becoming more competitive.
Nice.
I would start going to like league cups, league challenges. I was going to more than one Pokemon league um, at that time, so that was kind of that was a big step into the competitive world is going to multiple leagues. Even though league is casual, I felt that like going out of my comfort zone of going to the same place and seeing the same people on a weekly basis, and then just meeting more people, new friends. Um,
Yeah.
so
I feel like I when I stepped in, I was later to the game than you were, and even getting kind of competitive. My first cup was in the team up season,
Bloop.
but I just remember like almost every event that I went to, Izaiah was there too. So that's kind of how we sort of connected and started talking, started sharing deck ideas. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty cool. I've definitely seen Izaiah have a lot of success. He certainly had a lot of success at our tournaments that we've done at Unison Games Cafe. If you're a veteran to our social media or our YouTube, you've at least heard Isaiah's voice on camera.
go. Charizard.
Whoa! Oh my god! I'm super excited, but let's start out though with maybe somebody's watching. They've heard about Players Cup, or maybe they haven't even heard about it. How is it that you actually went about qualifying for this event, and what exactly is this event?
How do I want to describe it? It's a very grind. It's a hard test to qualify for because you get 50 keys and you have to use those 50 keys to qualify. And you play an 8-man pods on PTCGO.
Bloop.
So if you make to the finals of all your keys, you're basically playing 150 games to qualify for this
Yeah,
player stuff.
that's a lot.
Uh, it is a lot. I used 90. I got 99 rep, so I don't know exactly the math off the top of my head, but you use the rep that you get from the pods in order to qualify. So there was a certain threshold, certain number that you needed to qualify for North America. I
Right.
believe it was 93 rep.
Okay.
There was some talk that the bubble was going to be 100 because there was a lot more people playing,
Right.
but it was towards the end people were realizing it's not going to be 100. It's going to be like 93, 92.
Got you. So you don't actually know exactly how many tournaments you have to win, because isn't it based on like national ranking? Like each part of the world gets allocated a certain amount, and you have to be
Yeah,
within the top like X% of players. Which you're saying
yeah.
in this case, what? And you said you have 95 rep, right?
I had 99.
Oh, 99. Okay, so and that puts you in the threshold of being one of the top X% players in
Yeah,
the U.S.
it was actually North America, so it
North America.
was
Okay.
United States and Canada. Sure, no, never. Yeah, it was the top two between United States and Canada,
Okay.
and it was about 2,000 players who used these. for
Got,
C4.
gotcha.
Um,
Yeah, so definitely like a pretty big accomplishment. You got to play a ton of games. You have to win enough to be in, the top X% for your region. And then once you actually get to the Players Cup, that's sort of like almost like a national tournament, right? It's like how do you know off the top of your head how many players were in the Players Cup?
it was the top 256 for it was the top 256 players that qualified for Players Cup, but
Yeah.
for people who didn't register or the people who didn't register, there was about 214.
Okay.
Sounds right,
So
or I
over
think
200 players.
it was somewhere between 214 and 240. I'm not sure on the exact number.
Very cool. Yeah, so that's, I mean, certainly during COVID, that's a huge tournament. Obviously, this is
Oh
all
yeah.
done over PTCGO, which is kind of why it was done this way. It was sort of Pokemon's replacement for their in-person play structure. They started doing these online tournaments, and but yeah, over 200 players is quite a bit, and we're talking the pretty much the best 200 players that had played during this season. So that's pretty cool. So as you're playing all these games, obviously we're going to talk about the deck that you ended up bringing to the event. But what decks did you use to rake in some of these wins, or even what decks are some that you started with but that you ended up discarding? Like, what kind of stuff were you testing for this?
So I was playing Ursa Food to
Bloop.
begin with. Um,
Cool.
it was more or less the deck that I was like playing around with. I'm like, use Ursa Food for like my first 10 or so keys, and the first three is Ursa Food flopped. I lost in top eight in all three. I'm like, wow, this
Gotcha.
deck is terrible. Not touching it. Um, then I was like, let me try Orbeetle.
Bloop.
Orbeetle won me two pods, and I'm like, okay, Orbeetle's good.
Yep.
Then, so that's 45. Then that's five. The rest of the keys that I use, I played Cinescore.
Bloop.
Which a lot of people were like, Senti's not good. But in fact, when you're playing a lot of pods and you're facing a lot of decks,
Hmm.
Senti's matchup spread is
Yeah.
so much. It's so good in this format.
Yeah.
Depending on the list that you're playing, well, last format because this format's team up learning. Um, yeah, the matchup spread was like really good. And you almost beat everything. You had some 50-50s, but yeah.
I feel like Centiscorch doesn't really have any auto losses. Obviously, like you said, currently as this video is coming out, we're in the Chilling Rain format, but prior to that, this was right before that. So Inteleon hadn't really has sort of seen a rise now. And I know some people might have been playing Inteleon, but I feel like against the meta decks, it doesn't really auto lose to anything.
Well, the only deck that like took an auto loss to, well, close to an auto loss to was Victini VMAX.
Sure.
Victini has being able to say attach energy turn one, evolve turn boss up your Sun Scorch and knock it out.
Right.
Sunsi can't really deal with that.
Got
But
you.
if you can go second and just like start really good, then you're in a really good position to win the game.
Nice.
So what made it become an auto loss towards the end of PC4 was Galea and Rapidash.
Bloop.
Mm.
Being able to use Libra Horn to put Sun and Scorch VMAX down less than 100.
Mm.
If I'm remembering what Rapidash does, um, it was just one of those things like they Libra Horn your Sun and Scorch, then they just go boss it up and kill it with a Victini, a Heatran, Reshizard, a Volcanion with when you have 4 energy in play. So it was kind of almost pushing it out of the format,
Right.
but not to the point where it was unplayable.
Yeah, definitely Centiscorch saw a steep decline in play later in the season for sure. That was one thing that I noticed because I was playing Centiscorch, I think for the Darkness Ablaze format, And then I played it again through the Vivid Voltage format, and then honestly did not play much myself during Battle Styles, but I noticed that it was okay at the beginning, and then definitely declined. So yeah, you might be right. That might be kind of the Rapidash issue there. But
Yeah.
so as we're looking at this list,
Believe it.
we've got a welder deck. It's not a Centiskorch deck though. Why did you end up choosing this list to actually take to the tournament?
So I was watching. So this is going to be a weird story of how I got inspiration to play this deck. I was on YouTube watching older Pokemon like regional matches, and I came across one match in particular. It was Coffin versus someone else. Ross was playing a road deck, and I was like, I feel like I played against Ross before an online event. So I went back looking, through out the history, of what and who I played against, and I played against Ross during the one of the Limitless Majors. I was playing
Okay.
E-Turn, he was playing Bucephalon
Okay.
or Fire Tools. And I looked at his list and I was like, this deck seems pretty good. And so I was listening on the ladder, and I was like, okay, this deck. The more I play it, the more I got comfortable with it, and I actually enjoyed it. The list felt really good on, uh, being able to have the option using double or hot burn or Cramorant, and then using Bucephalon to KO,
Hmm.
to clean stuff up was a good option.
Yeah, as somebody that I played a lot of Unbroken Bonds format, and I played a lot of Cosmic Eclipse format, Unified Minds format. That's probably what I've played the most of. And seeing Blacephalon kind of transition into being this, it used to be this like just massive one hit KO machine, and how it's sort of transitioned into, like you just said, the thing that sort of cleans things up. Like it's like primed. It could, like, if you draw right, you could still use it to one hit KO. But I've noticed a lot of people transition into using it as sort of like the finishing Pokemon that's coming in for that second hit. KO maybe after Cramorant spread some damage, or um, you know, you've got a Reshizard in this list too, that a lot of times will put a ton of damage on, but doesn't necessarily take the KO. So did you find that that's how you were mostly using Blacephalon, was kind of like as a finisher?
Yeah, and mostly it depended on the matchup, but Bucephalon, funny enough, was used more than Heatran or
Mm,
Reshi in some scenarios.
nice.
Um, but usually, like against E-Turn or any other VMAX decks, your ideal plan is to knock out the first V with a Double Blaze or a Heatran, preferably Heatran because it gives up one less prize.
Right.
And now you're just basically saying, okay, you knock me out with your VMAX. I'm already up two, and then you're gonna be at both gonna be at four. So now I'm going to welder knock you out in response. Then I just need my Cramorant to switch out a one prize per game.
Right.
That's kind of usually where some of the VMAX matchup goes,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
sometimes it doesn't happen because you're a welder deck.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. Yeah, it's so good, but it can hurt so bad too sometimes. So a couple questions about your list, just like so I'm in no way going to try to critique anything at all. This is like all Isaiah's show, but I think there's a couple things that people, when they're looking at this list, might say like, oh, that's really interesting that you would choose that. What was the process there? So I think you know, playing like your Jirachi and your Mewtwo with the scoop up net seems pretty standard. And the Zigzagoon, those are kind of like, those always kind of go with scoop up net. So that's cool. But some of the item cards, that I like, not even just items, I guess trainer cards that are in maybe higher counts than you see in a lot of other decks. I'm wondering what you were thinking going into that, because I think it's really interesting. So, like, for instance, you've got 4 giant hearths in here, which I see a lot of decks play even like 2 giant hearths. So, what was your thoughts behind just going for the full playset on giant hearth?
Well, you have swell in the format, and decks that play double swell, you're gonna lose against if you're not playing four hearth.
Yeah.
Because essentially you want your first hearth to go down. And then you want to make sure that sits for a couple of turns. Then
Hmm.
they play the slow, and then you play your hearth. Then if they don't find your second slow, you play your third hearth. Which at that point, I don't think you're gonna put down your third hearth, but theoretically,
Right.
if you can find it, you find it.
Yeah.
Um, and also there's counter stating there's Wonder Lab being played.
Yep.
What's some other ones I can name off the top of my head that are being played? Wonderland Chaotic as well.
Yeah.
I saw a few Dark Cities
Yeah. I was gonna say that's another one that sees some play.
as well. Oh, Power Plant. I don't know why I forgot about that.
I wish we could all
Power
forget
Plant.
about power plant.
Yeah, well, at least Power Plant's not being played currently in the format.
Right.
Power Plant basically shuts the step down
Yeah.
if you if you know because they go turn one if they go Power Marnie or Swell Marnie, and you can't draw out of that, then you're just losing again. And that's
Right.
why Welder is one of the more risk high risk, high reward cards is
Right.
if they Marnie or plant Marnie you and you can draw out of that, it's it's the best feeling.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of draw and power plant, I did notice the Oricorio. And one thing that sounds weird to say as you're looking at all these 2 prizes in this deck, because you only play 1 3 prize Pokemon and so many other decks are relying on all their 3 prize Pokemon, playing a 2 prize deck is actually like playing, you know, almost like a baby deck. Like it's like it you already talked about one way that really swings the prize race in your favor. But I feel like when Oricorio came out, people only ever played it in exclusively 1 prize decks. So, but talk about that for a second. Like, did you find that Oricorio GX was just like massively helpful for you, or was
Oh,
that kind of
or
just in case?
Oricorio is like the best card in this deck. And
Yeah.
just being able to now see 8 cards with Jirachi and active, being
Hmm.
able to dance tribute first, then Sorrowish is just oh my god, I'm now seeing all these cards. Now
Right.
I have all these options to choose and to help me get the knockout on your Pokemon.
Yeah.
Um and Oracle is just I think by far one of my favorite cards in standard. Just the skill level with Oricorio is very it's a high skill level card
Yeah.
just because you have to basically figure out when is it appropriate to use.
Yeah.
And people may say, "Oh wow, well my Pokemon was knocked out. Let me Oricorio." But the best time to Oricorio is when you have another Jirachi active.
Mm.
So, for example, if I have 2 Jirachi in play, I leave one in the active and I have one on bench.
Right.
If you knock out my active one, I'm cool with that because that active one did its job. So I go promote the bench one, bench Oricorio, draw for turn, dance distribute. Let me see what I get.
Right.
Okay, cool. I hit Welder double fire. Let me Welder double fire onto my plus up one, draw 3 more.
Right.
Okay, cool. Stellar Wish. I need a fire crystal, and
Right.
then boom, hit the fire crystal. Mhm.
Yeah. That was another thing I noticed. Actually, that's where exactly where I was going next. So that's a good segue. A 4 of with Fire Crystal, um, very like, is that primarily so you guarantee it in the late game for Blacephalon?
Oh yeah, and oh yeah, because you use it for Bucephalon, you use it with Cram. When your Reshizard or Heatran gets knocked out, you could grab 3 back um, to activate Welder. And also, it's almost like a giant turf in in a sense. If chaotic swells in play because like
Hmm.
you can have a welder in hand and have a hearth, but like now the hearth goes to discard pile, so I did fire crystal to have welder in my to make welder a live card in my hand, charge up an attacker, draw some cards.
Right.
So and also you want four because sometimes you may need a day change or quick ball one away, or even giant hearth one away. Um that's
Yeah.
depending on the scenario, and you just want to see it often. Um often enough where it's very valuable.
Yeah. I will say I've always been like a massive fan of Fire Crystal. I really like that card. I probably played it too much in some decks, um, but yeah, it's a great card. So I don't want to move on from this section without giving you the chance to say like, hey, this part of my deck was different. I changed this about the lists, or this card really came in clutch in this situation. Is there any other things that you wanted to say about this list?
Energy Spinner is a really good card in welder decks. When people were playing this deck, I was kind of questioning why they're not playing Spinner. The Spinner is basically another out to Hearth going
Mm,
second because you can now grab three energy and you now get your double blaze off
right,
like turn one and it now increases your chance.
right.
Same with Pokegear. Pokegear just is like such a good card.
Yeah, I think
I
Gear
mean,
does not see enough play.
Um, it's I have a love and hate relationship with gear, but in this type of deck, gear is fine.
Yeah.
Um, and I think by far one of the best cards besides the Oricorio and the Energy Spinner is the Ordinary Rod, because now you can recover your Pokemon, you can recover your energy.
Hmm.
You can now make these awkward plays feel better late game.
Sure.
If you have to like quick ball away your Mewtwo, okay, cool. I have Rod in deck, I could get it back. So it's not really the most awkward.
Right.
It's not so awkward, but you definitely don't want to recover your Mewtwo with a Rod if
Sure.
you can avoid it.
Right. I really liked the list when you sent it over to me earlier. I took a spin through it just kind of to see what what was different about it, what was unique about it. It helps because I think both of us have a ton of like welder experience, so it's pretty cool. At first, you look at a deck like this and it's like, oh wow, there's really not that many attackers. They're all high energy, and then but like welder, I think this is a great opportunity for you to use welder. For before rotation. Not that it's totally used up. We still got a couple months to use it. But yeah, it looks like a super fun deck. With that said, how did the tournament go? What did you notice about playing some of your matchups? Why don't you give us your record and then talk about your games?
All right, cool. I will start with my record. So I went 2-3 drop in the tournament. Um, at that point, I couldn't qualify for top 16,
Hmm.
so I wasn't gonna continue playing. Um, I wish I did because I wanted to learn more about the deck, but I felt that I kind of told myself, I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep playing. So it was kind of
Right.
those things like I wanted to keep playing because this is my first Players Cup I qualified for. But at the same time, like, I don't know if I want to waste my time if I go like 2-4 drop or something like
Right.
that. So the matchups I had around one, Urshifu's and Sino.
Okay.
Um, that matchup, I would say it's 50-50. Um, just depending on how you draw. That matchup in particular, game one, I wasn't drawing the best. I started Crobat, Mewtwo, and like five other cards I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
But starting Mewtwo was like bad.
Yeah.
Like and then drawing into another deck card and then having to bench Crobat to prevent myself from losing.
Yeah. One hit KO. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad. In game two, I was able to take two prizes, then I just lost.
Okay. So the Players
Basically,
Cup was best of three.
yeah.
Cool.
Players Cup was best of three, 50 minutes.
Nice.
Um, so yeah.
So,
That was the format of the event.
I got you. So, quick question about the Ursa Food deck with Ursa Food Chinchino. Is that straight up just like draw and then smash with Rapid Strike Urshifu, or are
It's
there tricks?
it's there's tricks in the deck. It's reminiscent of the Zord Glossopod deck
Okay,
from Worlds 2018 format. Essentially, you have Cheryl, which is like your Acerola, have
right,
Marnie, like your N. You have Birdkeeper, which is essentially like a switch in
right,
plus draw in
right,
a plus three.
right.
You have your boss as your Gust. Um, so like the deck was good. Like
Yeah,
it's a good deck. It's very versatile, like how Zora Glissapod was, where you have counter catcher, Mew EX, Puzzle Time, or
right,
Angry. You could play all these one-ups.
right,
Um, you're just drawing through your deck so much that like I don't know how hard is it for you to miss a crucial piece, but when you miss
right.
it, you miss.
Yeah, it hurts bad. Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so how was round two?
Round two, I hit E-turn. In E-turn, you may say, "Oh, that's a bad matchup," but somehow I ended up winning games one and three. Game
Okay,
one, I was able to double blaze for the full double blaze for 200 and get two zigzagoon pings on their E-turn
nice.
that had one energy, and they had no other attackers. They had Evil Tone and Throwback.
Okay,
And then, so I was able to knock out their E-turn. They promote the Evil Soul. They attach and they bench their second E-turn with an energy, and they power accelerator onto the Evil Soul and pass. And
nice.
I'm like, okay, draw, attach, first strike. And then he's like, I will go second. I was like,
Right.
great.
Yeah.
I was like, great. Okay. Then I go, then game two starts. I start Jirachi. I was like, okay, this starts a little better. I draw. The start got a lot worse because I top decked my second balls and
Nice.
I had the Dedenne.
Right.
um, so I had the data exchange at hand and get a new, hopefully get something going. But Welder decided to give me, but this deck decided to give me two Welder, one Scoop Up Net, one Switch, and two Fire Crystal. I'm
Nice.
like, how? Um, then I was like, okay, you have this match. I'm not going to continue with this particular game. In
Right.
game three, it was back and forth. He stamps me to one. I draw the stamp to one.
Nice.
Um, then I he misses one crucial energy, and then I was able to capitalize on that to one.
Got you. That's my favorite thing about best of three is that like it kind of like in a Swiss situation, it's like he would have essentially bricked and lost that round, or if you'd started with that second game that you mentioned, you would have bricked and lost that round. But in best of three, you can usually have at least one of the games should be pretty interactive. So sweet. What was next after that?
Man, round three was the hardest match of this event, and it was a no show. um, the no show was the hardest match. So my opponent didn't show up around third. I was like, okay, cool. I gotta sit here now for an hour
Yeah.
waiting um for my opponent. Um, but my opponent was a very good peek around player,
Okay.
and it was someone who I really wanted to play against. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" They didn't check in,
Right.
so
Who was it?
it was Mike Fouché.
Okay.
Um, really good peek around player. He made a few top cuts at the GG Tour events, the GG Tour Chill TCG Cups, which were essentially like equivalent to the Pokemon regionals.
Okay.
Um,
Nice.
for online events and are in its cash pricing
Nice.
for their events.
Cool.
Um,
So we're on round four, right?
yeah, round four. Round four, I hit my friend Gabriel Smart. Um, he was playing Pikarom, and it was a 2-0 victory for him. but it basically came down to me whiffing a fire crystal or me whiffing a fire energy to win.
Hmm.
Um, I think I played the two games as perfectly as I can, playing to all the outs,
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to maximize my odds of hitting the said fire crystal or energy.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes you could burn 20 cards in your deck and you could still whiff
Right.
that one card.
I've totally been there with like tons of decks. So yeah, and Pikarom is like just so frustratingly consistent. So
Right. Yeah. Pikarom is like a really good deck.
yeah, it just does
um,
like what it wants to do pretty much every game.
oh yeah.
Um, which is that's why it keeps winning stuff. So
Yeah.
so how was round 5?
On 5 I hit Lucario Mobilization.
Mm,
Um, as weird it as weird sounds, you may think, oh well, Lucario Melmetal is a steel type and fire should be steel, so this should be an auto one. It's
right.
not. Wendigo, Marnie Plant, or Marnie Swell, Full Metal Wall with their toting energy,
Yeah.
and they're just basically saying Intrepid Sword behind Lily's Pokedolls. It's like
Yeah.
really hard for you not. It's really hard to beat it, and my opponent's list wasn't optimal, and I was like, okay, I should have a decent shot at this. But I gotta remember, optimal lists, the lists that are not optimal usually get lucky.
Sometimes,
um,
yeah, yeah. Or they have
but
like random stuff that you don't account for.
yeah,
I find that myself playing online because there's a lot of non-optimal lists played
oh
online,
yes, yes.
and it's like, oh, they don't have anything to combat this, and then they play down like some jank Pokemon that doesn't see any play that just happens to be like a great counter uh, for that. So
His list played 3 Crushing Hammer,
okay,
and I was like, okay, 3 Crushing Hammer, that's fine. I don't know why you're not playing 4, but whatever,
right,
whatever floats your boat.
yeah,
Um, and we go to game 3, and games 1 and 3, like I just couldn't pull out the win. It to me, I played really poorly that game because game 1, it was like he got in triple sword for 3 energy turn 1,
oh my gosh,
not and it and he and one of those 3 energy was a coating metal and the cape of toughness.
wow,
Um, so essentially a 270 HP Pokemon.
right,
So it was like, oh, 270, yeah, 270 HP Pokemon. And it's just like, he has boss.
right,
It was one of those things like, okay, I'm already losing this game.
right,
Let me play, let's see. But
yeah,
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 I think out of all the 5 matches, that was the match I was like, really?
right,
This is my luck for today.
yeah, yeah. Cool. So that was round 5, right? So
Yeah,
that was
that
the
was
last
the
round that
last.
you played, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say, like, as far as just takeaways for you are walking away from this event? Because I find that that's probably one of the most important things about playing in events is obviously you want to win, but like a lot of times you just go and you learn, and that learning's going to help you win in the future. So what kind of stuff did you take away from this one?
So what I took away from this event was the format isn't 100% skillful. It's more or less who, if you whiff something, you whiff hard, and it comes back to bite you a few turns down the road.
Yeah.
Like in other formats, if you like whiff an energy, it's whatever because they're not gonna punish you by martying or stamping you. But like
Right.
now, since like you have limited energy acceleration of welder and like wishing the knockout hurts
Right.
hurts hard. Um, and what I also learned is that the game doesn't feel like how it used to be.
Mm.
Even though that may sound weird, all these I played against one, two, three, four three prizer decks.
Mm-hmm.
being VMAXs or tag teams.
Right.
And if you were to play a 5 round event 3 years ago, you were going to hit two prizers and one prize.
Right.
So the introduction of three prizes, like tag teams and VMAXs,
Yeah.
they're like when they first got revealed at Worlds 2018 and released in the Sun and Moon expansion team up, that's when it changed the game. And from then on, the game hasn't been the same. That's why I got out this event. Kind of the cons of why I got, but some of the pros are is that I had a good time playing in my first like big event, big
Right.
kind of you know important event. In qualifying for this was like really exhausting and tiring.
Yeah.
But being able to play something that I qualified for, putting the effort into, felt really good.
Yeah.
And playing Welder, a card that I love, I have a really good love hate relationship with,
Yeah.
made it even more of a memorable experience that I don't think I could forget.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, as your friend and like an owner of one of the stores that you play at, definitely proud of you to see you make it like this. It's been pretty sweet to like watch you evolve as a player too, because I know you and I have done a lot of testing and stuff like that. And not that I'm at all elevated at all, because you've definitely got more experience than I do, and certainly more accolades as well. But definitely seen you like improve and do that. So that's why I was so excited for this interview. Cool, man. Well, is there anything that you want to shout out at the end of this? That's something I always want to do anytime I have a guest. I want to make sure that they have a chance to shout out what they're doing, because I know that you're not just a player, you're actually active and doing some other things as well. So I'll give you a chance to shout some of that out.
Yeah. First and foremost, I want to shout out my friend Brian, for being a really supportive friend, pushing me to my last 10 keys for Players Cup 4. Um, that we were in a VC on a Friday night at like 11 o'clock, and he, I had my screen sharing, I was playing Nintendo Sports, and he was supporting me along the way throughout those 10 keys.
Nice.
Um, and so to begin, that's the first and foremost thing I had to shout out. I also want to shout out my friend Christian, for being a great friend as well. And then some of the stuff that I do in the community, I help out with tournaments occasionally now. I'm not a hardcore TL as I used to be.
Mm,
Um, I help out with chill series, antis weeklies, and I do some commentating with the Shuffle Squad. Every 2 weeks they have Sword and Shield on events, and their
nice.
events are very very fun to play in.
Nice.
Their last event, I ended up making top 8 with Turboization, um, and that felt cool to play in one of their events finally after commentating a few.
Nice.
I was like, you know what? I think I should play tonight instead of commentate. So,
Nice.
and last show is to you and the guys at Unison Games for allowing me to have this interview. I was really stoked for this as well.
Dude, it was our pleasure. Seriously. Yeah, I think it's super cool. I would love to do more of this. Obviously, as organized play opens up, I know I recorded my first on the road video the other day. It wasn't for Pokemon; it's for another tournament that I went to. But that's kind of one of the ways I got started talking about Pokemon. Was I did like the trainer on the road videos back before COVID, which seems like forever ago. So I hope there's more content about tournament play coming up. But definitely, if you guys want to hear more about Pokemon or other games for that matter, be sure to hit that subscribe button and check out the other content on our channel as well. We got all kinds of good stuff coming at you. And if you like this particular kind of stuff, this interview, almost like podcast type YouTube stuff, definitely hit the like button because that just helps us know which videos you guys like the best, and whatever you like the best, that's what we're going to bring you. But Isaiah, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
Just thank you again. And if you guys are in the Connecticut, New York area, check out the guys at Unison Games. They're really good quality events, and always have a good time playing in them.
Dude, thank you so much for that shout out. We'll see you guys really soon. Be sure to catch us in the next video and have a good one.